Hi and welcome to Rethink Dialogue. In this episode we're going to sit down with Lars Silberbauer, who is the Global Director of Social Media at LEGO. And he has some pretty interesting stuff to tell us. Let's go and talk to him. Hi Lars, welcome to Rethink Dialogue. First question always is, tell me a little bit about your background and where you're coming from.
My background? Well, I'm Danish. I work in LEGO, it's a Danish company, privately held company. Before I ventured into LEGO, I was working with broadcast television and integrating digital media and broadcast television at Danish Broadcast Corporation. From an educational point of view, I have an MA in media science and in business and strategy.
Media science, business and strategy, okay. So LEGO, tell me a little bit about LEGO, because there's been a drastical change in LEGO.
Yes, well, I don't know if it's a drastical change, but definitely
for the better.
For the better, yeah. It's the company has been growing quite nicely for a long period of time.
Yeah.
I was brought into the company 3 years ago to start out social media, build the social media strategy from basically from scratch. We didn't even have a Facebook page before I entered the company. But since then, it's been going quite well on social media and actually engaging a lot of consumers through social media and on the social media channels.
So when you say that, how do you engage actually with your audience?
Our point of view about engagement is that we try to, instead of saying like we want in traditional marketing, we want to push a message, instead we perceive it like we want to set the stage for engagement, or we want to orchestrate the engagement. And we know that a lot of consumers are very active about sharing LEGO creations and talking about LEGO products and LEGO experiences on social media. So what we basically want is basically just to make sure that we can be in some kind of contact with that and then set the stage and hopefully create more engagement around our products and hopefully also positive engagement around our products and experiences.
Yeah. You also mentioned when we talked previously about your audience. So your audience is defined in a quite special way because of LEGO.
Yeah, of course LEGO is for kids of all ages. So it's a product and it's a toy that we know that a lot of people are using. But then said, it's also mostly used, of course, by kids. So kids are our core consumers, but shoppers are, of course, mostly the parents, gift givers, and so on.
In that social media landscape where you're operating, which channel do you see being more effective?
I think it depends on our target group for that communication or that engagement, and I think it's important that to always work across channels and not decide on a specific channel to solve a specific problem, but always to follow where consumers are, and that's our main driver on which channels that we want to engage on and which channels we want to drive. That is basically we follow our consumers. So if they find a specific social media channel to be relevant for them, then we will also be there, and that's how we are very consumer focused and consumer driven. So that is our main strategy, to follow the consumer wherever they go.
But so when you think, then again, kids, audience, your consumer, Facebook has the limit of 13 age plus. So which other channels do you then attract the kids that are younger at the age?
Yeah, and that's of course a very natural challenge on social media, and we have a very strict strategy about this and principles that we do not target kids below 13 years old on social media. We want kids to be safe online, so we have communities for kids, but on our own platforms where we can make sure that they have the right moderation. So if they have pre-moderations, the platform is cover compliant, and so on, so that's very important to say. But of course, there are a lot of videos on YouTube as well that is very accessible for families, both parents and kids. But whenever we do things on Facebook, for instance, it is targeting people above 13 years old.
So what are your thoughts when it comes to social business marketing?
Yeah, I definitely think that both marketing and businesses needs to evolve, needs to really be having a different mindset when it comes to communicating with their consumers. And I think it's a lot about having businesses also realize that it's not just about doing another campaign in another way. It's more about also a lot of times evaluating, is the campaign the right way to go? Or should we be building long-term engagement, long-term relationships with our consumers instead? And I think basically it's very natural, if you are as a business, if you want to be here for a long time, you need to build very long-term relationships and strong relationships with your consumers. And that is not done through a single campaign. That is done by actually being very transparent, very honest about your consumer engagement.
Yeah. How are the Lego employees, are they encouraged to be ambassadors for the brand, or does that just happen naturally, or how do the people working for Lego, how do they act online?
We encourage people to actually, of course, endorse the company and also be in conversations with consumers about the products, and then of course we give them some tools so they're not hurting the company, not hurting themselves in social media, because it can of course be, there are risks involved in talking about businesses on social media. So we focus a lot and invest a lot of resources in educating people, making sure that we give them the right tools, the right competencies, so they will be able to both do good for themselves, but also of course for the company and for the consumer.
Exactly. In your point of view, what has been the tipping point for Lego when it comes to the engagement in social? What could you have you seen any like typical trend where something just happened?
I don't think there's kind of a one tipping point, because I haven't perceived the journey in Lego as kind of it's not an uphill struggle. So it's been organic, evolving, and we've been driving a long-term strategy that has been developing. So we work with a framework, a strategy framework based on strategizing. So we do stuff, we do engagement, then we feed the learnings back into the strategy, and then we scale the next kind of engagement and continuously work in those kind of loops. So it is actually a gradually journey, of course a very fast journey, but it's not, it doesn't feel like a tipping point and a mountain we had to climb before it was easy sailing. It's still as tough as it was from day one, because now there are more challenges on a larger scale, but it's more a continuous journey.
Okay. And how do you, so you say that you take the learnings, that I guess that means that you have a pretty good overview of what's happening. So you collect data and you collect how people are interacting with you. You hope. Okay. So you don't have, but you have tools for those things.
Yes, we have tools in place, but I think it's very important to realize this is not something you can't buy and purchase a tool that would do this for you. You have to have people behind the monitoring screens. You have to have people that makes those evaluations about what does this consumer feel like, and make those priorities. Because at some point we had a Facebook post where a mom shared an image of her son that has recently died from leukemia, and he was a huge Lego fan. That will only show up as someone mentioned something about Lego. Unless you have humans behind the screen that can see this and react to this immediately, and with their own emotions actually connect with this consumer and treat this consumer in the right way and show the right kind of feelings, and show that we definitely care about that situation that she's in.
And how many? So how big is your team? How many? What's your resources when it comes to handling?
We have a pretty small team of 5 people globally.
Wow.
So we have 5 people, that's the core team. Then we have 25 people, around 25 people, that is working with social media as part of their job. So it might be 10%, it might be 50% or 100%. But they are typically based locally in local markets. So my team is based across Denmark, UK and US. And they are driving the global platforms, the partnership we have with Facebook and YouTube and Google and so on. And then on top of that, we have educated around 350 people in the organizations and giving them what we call a social media driver's license. And that is a license so they can represent the company on their own social media platforms and have a conversation with consumers. with the right tools, the right competencies, and also be the kind of our first point of contact if we need to escalate things. Then they need to basically take that issue and bring it up to me or to the PR teams.
Exactly. I think so. So that's one of the most important things to think about. Is like, if you are confident on a platform, you actually perform better instead of being scared, because then you kind of do a lot of wrong things, I guess. You talked a little bit about campaigns. Does campaign work in social, or is it more just spikes that you have to do because of the marketing department says that you have to do it?
I work in the marketing department, so that comes. I think there will always continue to be campaigns, because as long as we have, from a business point of view, products that we need to create awareness about, then we need to make sale in a period of time, short period of time. We will need some kind of campaign. Will campaigns change, and will we do other stuff than just campaigns in a traditional way? Definitely, we're already doing that. So I think you'll see a need for marketeers to have a broader toolbox than just doing a TV commercial, doing the media buying with a media agency, and then leaning back and waiting for the after-action reviews. They will need to have a broader toolbox of a long range of different tools to engage consumers, and also listen to consumers about what they actually need, and make extremely fast loops in their learnings, and also in their communications, about changing their communication toolbox and so on. So I think it's definitely going to change a lot, but campaign will still be around. Yeah.
So what, tough question coming, what do you think is the future of social?
I think it's the same answer as the future of digital. I think in 5 years' time, I don't think you will have, in a lot of companies, I think you'll actually see the social media department will dissolve and be basically integrated in the rest of the company. And that is typically what I expect to see in 5, perhaps 8 years, depending on the company. So I think social media and social in general will be a bigger part of businesses, but I think it will be something that businesses needs to adopt by the core business, and not just having a small unit doing social media for the company. It's like digital 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where you had a small team doing digital. It's going to be part of most businesses.
Cool. So any principles you'd like to share from your point of view when it comes to online digital marketing, social media sphere?
I think it's all about trying out stuff, learning it very fast, be brave. I think it's a lot about being personal in the way that you actually perceive this. Don't expect to wait, or don't wait until someone else has figured out how to do it. Figure out how your company can find their own way in social media, and how they can find their kind of way of engaging the consumers. And I think, compared with traditional marketing, I think it's very important that we realize we cannot just get there by investing our money. We need to invest ourselves as people, as persons, and as humans. Because if you want to create a social connection, you need to have two humans actually connect. And I think that's one of the most important parts.
Cool. So, what inspires you?
I can say what makes a good day is when someone is sharing something on social media, where I can see a mom being proud of her kid because the kid has built something amazing in Lego bricks. I think that's still what just gets me up in the morning. It's just so nice to see, and you feel like they're sharing a bit of a part of their life, a part of their joy, building with your product, and that can only make me happy. Yeah.
So you're clearly a passionate guy about your product that you're working with, which is...
It is a nice product, I must say. I played with it when I was a kid, and I know a lot of other at my age did.
Yeah, that's how I started being creative, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. That's Lego. All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And I'll see you around.
Definitely.